Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 23rd episode of the Awareness podcast. Today, we're here with our guest, Stephanie Dominguez. Thank you very much for being with us. And yes, introduce yourself to the people.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite, first of all, and for the time and space to have me here. As you said, my name is Stephanie Dominguez. I was born in the US but raised in Mexico. So I call both home. And yeah, I've been in the sports world for years now, first as a player, and then now as a performance coach. So soccer's been in my life for a long time.
That's great, Stephanie. And we know now that you work with the U.S. men's youth national team. It's sports science, but let's go back a little bit and start from the beginning on what got you into the sports world in the first place, and then what got you into the sports science and do it in a from a professional standpoint.
My story is like really long on what exactly got me to the sport and then what kept me going.
Right.
First, when I was younger, I was that kind of girl that I never liked sports. I would always like dancing, singing, like all that stuff.
Mm.
But my cousins started playing, so I used to just go kind of cheer at them and watch them play. And then I fell in love with the sport. So I was like, all right, like just put me as
Okay.
coach. So yeah, at the time I didn't know anything. I remember back then there wasn't like no girls team either. So the coach had to start like he put me in with the boys team, and then eventually we started a girls team. So that's kind of how the base of where the passion for the sport started.
Okay.
And then I continued my career, as a player, just a club player. Then I went on to college, played in
Mhm.
college, and when I first left to the university, I started with a criminal justice degree. That was just this is crazy because my bachelor's is actually in criminal justice, so it's like
Okay.
very interesting. But during my time there, I was going through issues with like my coach,
Mhm.
and um, I started going to the gym on my own. At the time, I didn't have a performance coach, so we only had a head coach, two assistants, and a goalkeeper coach. So we didn't really have a performance coach. Sometimes we had like certain sessions for a strength and conditioning and stuff like that, but it was that whole being like subject was very new.
Yeah.
So I got myself into the gym like not knowing what to do, not knowing anything like, and then I started just doing research and okay about nutrition,
Mhm.
workouts, and I just started learning about the physiology of the body, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like the fact that there's so much that our body can accomplish,
Yeah.
and specifically like in sports, like you have to, like if you take care of your body or the way you prepare it, and your careers can go longer. So I started learning about it all this, and it was just at the time like little peaks of information um, that piqued my interest. So I
Okay.
decided to change my major to kinesiology, human performance. I also transferred schools, so I went to different school.
Okay.
Um, Long story short, I ended up going back to the school I started. So that's why I have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I had to go back. And then but thankfully I had that 1 year of classes. So I got myself into a master's program, and that's where like I went full on exercise science. So I did my master's in exercise science, human performance as well. And then from there I started my internship. So
Okay.
exercise science, you can go either way. I always tell people like some people go like the PT way, like they specialize in like physical therapy. Other
Mhm.
people go more into the clinical, and then you have like the human performance area where most people work with athletes, or they work within a sport, individual, team sport, anything like that. So yeah, that was more of me that I started going more towards the human performance side, like the coaching and being closer to the field with athletes and all that.
Basically, your own experiences accidentally almost ended up bringing you to the sports science part, no?
Yeah, exactly. Because I had no knowledge. Like I didn't know what a performance coach was. I barely knew what a warm up was. Because when we're players, we are like never
Yeah.
want to warm up.
You just want to play.
Yeah, you just want to play, like ready to go. So once I like started learning just different information and started trying it on myself, I was like, wow, there's like a lot to know about the body, about the way you perform, or like there's more to an athlete's lifestyle, basically. So yeah,
Yeah, and,
I switched my path.
something that I just wanted to ask you about, because then there's also a lot of people, especially now that we're starting off uh, school season, school semester. Like, I think it takes a lot of courage to change your degree like that, to change like after finishing your degree. And there's probably a lot of people that they're doubting about what to study, if it's the right choice or everything. And then they also have that fear of, oh, what if I don't like it? Like, what's one piece of advice that you would give to them, considering that you lived through that you ended up realizing that the degree that you studied wasn't necessarily what you wanted to do?
Yeah, honestly, at the time, like I remember when I was still criminal justice, and I had like my major criminal justice, and then my minor, I wanted to go into like psychology, and then I wanted to do sports. And I remember one day, like the counselor was like, "All right, like Steph, we know you want to do it all, but
Yeah.
you find a way to manage because you're like." We know you can work hard, but come on, you can't be everywhere at the same time.
Let's pick one.
Yeah. So I was like, it and it's hard. And I always tell people sometimes you like something and then you stop, you don't, or maybe you still like it. Like I still like criminal justice,
Mm.
but maybe it's not what you see yourself waking up to do every day. Right. I always tell people like find what makes you passionate. Like when you wake up, you're like, oh, I'm ready to go. Like this, I'm gonna do this. Obviously there's ups and downs all the time. So during that time, I just started thinking, okay, what like kind of put in my pros and cons of everything and like what really do I enjoy. And because of my personal situation that I had to switch schools, I was like, it's okay. I'll find a way. I'm always the type of person that I'll find a way to do what I want to do. So at the time, I was like, obviously, like you said, a lot of people get scared. And I've had this conversation with other people that they're like getting ready to change their major or they're thinking about it. And I'm like, if you're like, if your heart is telling you to do it because you're more passionate about something like a different career, I would always say like go for it. You know, um, I think we're always afraid of making like risky moves, but I always tell people you're never gonna be wrong or you're never gonna make a mistake. It's gonna be more of an experience. So for me, yes, I have a criminal justice degree, but now I'm like, okay, how do I adapt everything I learned during like those 4 years or 3.5 with that subject or career to what I do now, right? So it's not like wasted time or wasted knowledge or anything like that. Like everything's going to give you new knowledge, something that you can apply everywhere, and it's going to give you a different experience. So, you know, like criminal justice, they teach you a lot to like be very observant of everything, like people, places. So now, okay, on the field, how can I be very observant of like my peers, the environment we're at, what's around them, and things like that.
No.
So yeah, I would say like don't ever be afraid. It's always going to be an experience, a learning curve, but it's never going to be like a mistake or a wasted opportunity.
And also, a point you mentioned, like your time is never wasted. Like you always learn something about something. It's also like the same situation
Exactly.
when
Yeah.
people do different sports. Let's say someone plays baseball and plays soccer or football at the same time. At some point, you have to decide, but like don't think you can do both sports all the time because then it's just gonna holding you back, like achieving the highest potential you can get.
Yeah, exactly. And if you make everything a learning experience, like you're not necessarily wasting it, as you said, because you are and especially now you know what you don't want to do. Like you have even more clarity. So I think it's in both way, in every way, it's something that it's not you wasting time, but it's something that's actually bringing value to you. And Stephanie, now talking a little bit more about where you are right now, what does a sports scientist do for that people that don't necessarily know about it?
The title I always like it's very broad because especially in sports and even more in the US, like the
Mm.
titles have changed a lot and we're integrating like new roles into sports. I mean, you see that across the world, right? Like Now you have the sports performance coach, and then you have your strength and conditioning, you have your sports scientist, you have your data analyst. So now, like what used to be kind of more into one role, now it's opened into different
I
roles
see.
to be more specific. So currently with the national team, I like a hybrid position.
Okay.
So I do things that a sports performance coach would do, and I do things that a sports scientist would do.
Okay.
So I work a lot with on field, so warm ups, strength and conditioning sessions, planning planning the loading plans with the coaches, with the head coach. But then I
Mhm.
also do all of the data, so all of the testing
Mm,
for the players, or like daily wellness questionnaires, GPS data. So it's a little bit of a hybrid position. Um, Current like the way we deal with it here in the national team right now.
okay. Okay. So it's kind of like you touch every aspect that might affect the performance of the athlete.
Yes, exactly. So anything like pre-training, during training, post-training, and then including some of the nutrition aspect in there as well. Um, and then anything of the data like analysis and then at the end.
Okay. Okay. So now that we're talking about that, let's dive a little bit into that sports science part. And starting up with the nutrition that you mentioned, that's something that you work on. What are the main things that an athlete can do from a nutrition standpoint to increase performance? Let's start from like the broadest, but like the most basics, but the most fundamental things that an athlete can do.
Uh, that was always hard. There's well, it's nutrition is about fueling their bodies, right? It's about making sure they it allows them to have the proper energy for training, for games, and all that. There's a lot of foods that are important or that people mention are important, but I think especially at the younger ages, we just have to we have to make sure players are eating enough. For example, some players are scared of eating uh, because they're going to feel heavy, and as they grow up, they're going to start learning their bodies and they're going to start learning what they like and their prefers. But it's always like be very open to having like everything on your plate. So have a colorful plate, have your carbs, have your proteins, have your fats, have your like include vegetables. So we always try to teach our players that how to build their plates around like what they're doing for training. So based on like our loading phase, or like do we have an easy training today, a hard training? So trying to teach them those little things are fundamental because they can go back and adapt them at their in their own homes, you know. So now after a game, now they know, okay, how can I feel my body before a game, and how can I refuel my body? Like how much carbs, or like should I focus more having more protein, more carbs, things like that. So learning, I guess the proper timings of like when is better for your body to intake more carbs, when your body needs more protein,
Okay.
or that's important for the player too. That way they can have a guide, because I think once they know that, they can also be like, okay, um, this is how I'm going to build my plate around what I just did or what I'm getting prepared for.
Okay.
So yeah, 'cause nutrition can honestly be like this big theme, but at the end of the day, if they start like with small changes and understanding like how their plate should look, that's gonna guide them to like build it up as they move on in their careers.
Yeah, like there's no point on starting to get like fancy supplements or getting super specific if you're not eating the right calories for the day, right?
Yes, exactly. Like we are sometimes we get ahead with like what social media is saying, or what we hear from like maybe a teammate that's been working for it with a nutritionist for a long time. And it's kind of like, okay, where you're at, understanding where you're at, what's your knowledge of what you're already eating, like
Yeah.
what do you think you understand from the foods that you get, whether it's at your club, whether it's at home, when you go eat. And then once you have that basic knowledge of like what's the protein, what's the carbs, and how much should I have, then you can start expanding. I'm like, okay, more specific to your individual needs.
Okay, okay. It sounds like you try to be very educational, and it makes sense because I mean a lot of the guys you don't have them for the whole season. You have them for a 2 week period, a 3 week period, and that's where my next question goes, and is how do you manage the nutrition of an athlete in such a short period of time and ensure or at least make the biggest effort so they can perform at the highest level in that short period of time.
Yeah, you're correct. That's one of our, as a national team, one of our biggest challenges is that we short amount of time that we get the players, and like as you said, sometimes we get players that come in for a camp and we don't see them for another 6 months. So like that's hard. So for us, in terms of understanding where the players at, if they have any specific nutritional needs or any plans that they're already following, that's the communication that we get from the club. So before any camp and even in post camp, we always communicate with the clubs to get any information, like are they taking any supplements or are they in a special like nutritional plan? Is there something that they like before a game or they're used to taking? Any of that information we try to obtain from the clubs. And then apart from that, the way we prepared for a camp is once once we build our loading plan and we know how our week of training is going to go, so like our periodization, like the low trainings, the moderate trainings, the hard trainings, then we build the menu based on that, on the
Okay,
needs for that.
okay.
So, and at the camp, we give them three big meals. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have like two snack times where it's more of an open snack. We purchase more local snacks that we set up for them, like in our high performance room. Players can come in and grab and take it to like their rooms. Um, but those other three, the three big meals, they are the way we build them. They are based on what they need, like before a training or what they're going to eat in a post match. So we try to at least provide them those options so they can also start seeing like, oh, this is kinds of foods that we get before a match, or this is the kinds of food that we get before a night training, like a match day management, and they start learning. So, besides that, like you said, we always like to educate our players as well. So we always have like little papers that say, "Oh, today's a light day, and maybe this is how your plate should look," and then we have a picture for them. So now they have an idea of like, oh, like I should be more focused on eating my vegetables or more on adding extra protein today and things like that.
So in the end, each player is still they have to take their plate themselves. Like they don't get like a full plate on front of them.
Yeah, no, the meals are buffet style.
Okay.
So
Mm,
we are, yeah, yeah, we always have buffet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'll have buffet style where we have a salad bar area, hot plates, which are typically will have one or two carb options, two protein options, and your vegetables. And
okay.
then you'll have like a food and yogurt area. And they're like they get up and they get their own meals. So when they're younger, I try to I'm there like watching and and I'll yeah. And I try not to be so hard on them, but there
Yeah,
are times where like someone's like has a really nice plate, a lot of like different colors on the food, then I say, "Oh, hey, like that's a really nice plate," and you'll catch one or two other players just looking at them like, "Oh, that's how mine should look."
it's like reinforcing when they do it good. Huh?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So
That,
that always helps is a good way.
that's great. I imagine that builds a lot of awareness on the athlete because they're the ones actually making the decision. So you really push them through to make that decision, and in that exercise they end up earning. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And Stephanie, I wanted to put a scenario for you because I know you guys, like, of course, you most of the times that you guys meet in the national team is because there's a tournament coming up, or yeah, you're preparing for a tournament, and most of these tournaments are very short, right? So let's say you have a very quick tournament, I don't know, 2 weeks, and you guys play I don't know, 6 games in that span or 5 games in that span. Like just a simple fact that you have a lot of games back to back in a short period of time. How would you structure the nutrition for that to ensure for performance, recovery, and to make sure that the players are as best as possible?
Depends on the days we have between games as well. Sometimes we play. There's age group like an under 15 group can play back to back games. We've seen it where it's like three times in a row, like 3 games in a row, and then like the U17 up level will have maybe 2 days between a match or one day. Basically, what we try to do is right after a match, we always have a protein shake ready for them in the locker room.
Okay.
And to be honest, I don't make it mandatory in the games like after a match every time unless we have a longer drive back and I know it's gonna be like a longer time till we sit down for our next meal.
See, I
Then
see.
I'll push it. But sometimes like the players, especially if they don't play that much, they'll ask, hey, do I really have to drink it? Or some like feel it too heavy. I'm like, okay, no, you can, but we try to push that immediate protein to start that recovery process with them. So if we have a shorter drive back to the hotel, then it's okay, like we already have a meal for them set. And like I said, typically we'll try to push that protein for the recovery, and then for the next 2 days or just the day before training, then we'll try to push those carbs just so they can be ready for the next game.
I see.
And there's so many conversations that you can go with. I've seen different styles of nutrition, like
Yeah.
higher carbs, lower carbs.
Yeah.
We're still kind of in that trend, and also trying to just help them refuel, not
Mhm.
just with like so that their meal, but also their hydration, because that's another thing that you need to pay attention to is their hydration, especially like depending on where we're at in the world, the heat.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of players that lose a lot of water weight during while they play, so it's important for them to also rehydrate. So those are some of the things that we always push right away in the locker room. They'll find a protein shake, like a water bottle, and like an electrolyte drink immediately, and then we try to have that next meal within that next hour.
Mm.
Um, Most of the time, it's achievable. We're always closer. We stayed the hotel closer to the field. But in the case of like if we're in a big city where there's big traffic, then it's good to at least have the protein, maybe a bar. They need it, and then depends on the time of the match too, whether we have like how many meals prior to a match we'll have. So for example, we're going to a tournament here or a friendly tournament in like about 2 weeks, and our match time is at 7 p.m. So now that puts us as having like adding an extra meal for them just because it's later.
Mhm.
So we'll have like a breakfast, a light lunch that's optional, and then the pre-match meal, the actual pre-match meal, and then we'll have a post-match meal at the end.
Okay, and just a question on that. That you say that when you have later games, I know you want to have your good meal in order to recover, but then considering that it's closer to probably sleep time, how do you account for that, and in a way that also allows them to rest and sleep well?
Yeah, we just sometimes it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard,
right.
especially like that window. Sometimes it's very tight. They'll put us in a late game, and then we have either an early training or um like an early match, and we have back to back matches, and that's like a little bit of a challenge. We what we do is we'll try to adapt that breakfast time for the following day. If we can push it a little later, then we will. Even if it's like prior to a match, then we feel like we can push to a later start.
Okay.
So we allow them to do that, and then it's always reminding them to like remember you're going to sleep after this meal, and they'll still have like some downtime before they actually go to bed.
Okay, okay, okay. So they don't go to bed immediately. I mean, I can imagine 15, 17 years old.
Yeah. Sometimes even if they try, they have so much adrenaline going on that after a match, they struggle.
No, definitely, definitely. And that's in the part of nutrition. I wanted to ask you also in training, basically the same question. Like, how do you, because I know a lot of the time is going to be dedicated to the players getting to know each other, the coach trying to introduce the tactics, the concept. But that how do you make time for that extra training, that strength and conditioning? And how does it look like in a way that it doesn't take too much time from them, doesn't fatigue them as much, but then you're still also working on those areas that you want to work on?
Our our days are typically in a camp are typically, I would say, long, but they go pretty fast because we have so many things going on.
Yeah.
So when I get the opportunity to do a strength training session in like the afternoons, we typically train in the mornings. So if
Okay.
I have a facility and the time to do it in the afternoon, within like a 10-day camp, I'll try to get at least 2 sessions in with them.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, yeah, and there are times where we are in hotels or facilities that we just don't have the gym facility to do it. So basically, what we do, well, this we do regardless. Every before every training, we do an active, what we call an activation session or period for the guys, where we spend sometimes like 10 minutes. It's very short, but that's more of like just getting them prepared for the training, for the warm up, and getting their bodies ready to go. But yeah, it's challenging when we don't have the facility to do it, and we try to. So like, even if I have to get a in Argentina, one time I had to like go down the block and ask a gym there if we could
Oh
use
yeah.
it, and it worked. Yeah, it worked out perfectly. Because also the older players get, and also the more experience they have within their first teams, they already come to us with like a routine. So like I said, even the clubs will share their routine. So what I try to do is I'll try to do 1 or 2 team sessions all together where we're all working through the same routine. But I also, the other days, if they have individual routines or workout plans that they're bringing from the clubs, I just double check with them, make sure that it fits into like our training program that day, that they're not gonna, like you said, get over fatigued, that it's gonna
Yeah.
be like it's still gonna work out for the next training. And then I allow them to do their individual program in the gym. And a lot of them, to be honest, are very professional, and they'll come ask, or they're just like, they know which days they want to be in there, and they're very good about like taking care of their bodies.
Okay, okay. No, I see. Because I imagine like you're getting a player that has been doing the same thing for like 6 months, 8 months before going there, and I imagine how you trying to change the routine or what they normally do. That might even like cause a little bit of, I don't know, because it's hard always to try to adapt to something different, and that's the worst thing that that's the last thing that you want to for the player to feel unfamiliar and to not feel comfortable, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you always, that's why for us it's very important to know like most of the information from the players, like what are they doing in the clubs, what is something that they're familiar with.
Yeah.
And then obviously we adapt with our knowledge and our experience, and knowing our training environment, we'll adapt or we'll blend it in and try to make this full plan for everyone. And but yeah, and obviously like sometimes yes, we have to step in and educate them on new
Mhm.
maybe like a new programming, or if they don't really have that support back
Yeah.
in their clubs, then we provide that support. But like I said, a lot of them will come in with their program that they've been following, and it's just more of that conversation like, okay, how are you feeling? Let me look at your program, let's decide like which days are appropriate to do, so you're not fatigued for the games. And then I like to give them that kind of freedom and liberty of also doing it on their own if they're comfortable. And I just check in on them, because I also don't want to be on top of them all the time, especially if I know that they have experience with the program.
Of course.
And also, you mentioned before, like sometimes you have tournaments where you don't have a gym available. What, like, is there some other options you are doing, like maybe body weight exercises, something like that?
Yes, we'll definitely try to incorporate a lot of the body. Like whenever we really don't have anything, we'll incorporate body weight exercises. And then we always, part of our equipment, we always travel with like the TheraBands, the long ones, and the mini bands. So we try to do a lot of, even if it's like partner work, so they can add more resistance. We'll use those to incorporate some resistance to at least give them a little bit of a stimulus. Um, because yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Like let's say you go a 10-day camp and you have no gym at all. I mean, even me, I'm like, okay, we need to do something.
Definitely.
So yeah, so you always try to at least incorporate all those before training or after training. Depends on how it lands better or it aligns better with the periodization.
Okay. Okay. And Stephanie, you mentioned also very quickly that you you guys do a 10-minute activation, and a lot of the guys always have this doubt. A lot of the athletes always have this doubt of what should I do before training, like what's the best way to activate. How do you guys do it over there in the team?
We try to basically for the team activation, we pick 4 to 5 exercises that we're gonna do. We can do it. We've done it in different ways, like where the whole group is doing the same thing, or where
Okay.
we do 4 or 5 different stations, and we just do small groups, and they like walk through them. At this time, I'm the only sports scientist on field, so I'll always ask the athletic trainers for help to like help me manage the stations, and we have like this very nice workflow. Everyone engaged and incorporated into the activation. Um, Same idea. I try to do exercises that I know the players are somewhat familiar with in with their clubs, but also like if these are players that are continuously we learn where they're at, how they're like moving, what their needs are. So if I see anything specific, then I will add it to this activation, even if it's like a team. Let's say I see a lot of players lacking core strength, then I'll add some like core exercises, additional core exercises to the activation. And then the same where it's everyone together, but then we're still watching them individually to see what are some of the needs. And then now those exercises are more like what we pick a focus. So what kind of session we're gonna do today? Do we need to focus on more lower body, like a lot of hamstrings, for example, if we know it's going to be a high sprint today, okay, how do we prepare hamstrings? Or is it more of a recovery session? Do we need to get the players to like m- do more mobility, like just loosen up because we just came from a game or from a hard training session, or it's more of like that. And typically, like I'll do it. I'll do the activation on my own, but I also a lot of the times I'll connect with the athletic trainers and see kind of what they saw during treatment plans. Like they
Okay.
see, they can be like, oh, there's a lot of players like coming in with tight hips, for example, and we just add some of that work during the activation.
Okay, so you try to tailor to both each player, like depending on what their needs are, and then also what the needs of the whole team are. So that activation is always tailored to for that specific training that you guys are gonna do. So as you said, if you guys are gonna do high speed, a lot of hamstring, a lot of posterior chain. Okay, now it makes a lot of sense. And
Yes.
we already talked about nutrition and training. What are the other things? I don't know. I'm thinking sleep, recovery, the mental part. What are those other things that you also try to implement that at the end of the day end up affecting performance?
Yeah, there's a so many things. Sleep is very important for us as well. We always try to remind them,
Okay.
proper sleep, hygiene, like that before one the first time when we start training, there's like different things that we talk about to them. We talk about the just even if it's returning players during our meeting, we'll touch out on high performance rooms, so making sure they know where all the recovery tools are, like foam rollers and Normatec boots and all that. So we're like, remember, all that is available to you. So we remind the players, we remind them of the meals to take advantage of the meals and try to pick up, um, maybe new items and habits to take back to their clubs. And then sleep is always in there as well, just a reminder to them that it's important that they go to sleep early. It's important that they start putting their phones away early because, especially in those international trips where we travel through like different time zones, we always try to like manage those times of like, okay, when they should be napping, when they should be awake, what time should they go to bed and start like getting prepared to go to sleep. So at the end of the day, we always tell them we can't be in your rooms and make sure you're actually asleep. So it's up to you. But I always tell them like if you don't sleep one day, it's gonna take more than one day to recover. Like it's gonna take at least 3 days to recover from that sleep, and you're gonna see it affect you. So it's a lot on that sleep. It's a lot of more on that education and making sure that they understand the importance of it, and also trying to keep that schedule. We always try to keep that same schedule every day, so they build up this routine at least during the camp time.
So you give them all the options, and in the end, they have to decide if they use them. So you don't have like official recovery sessions. Like you have the room where like the athletic trainers are in, and then they can just come in as they feel like it. Or
We have both. So we have our high performance room. We keep it open for them so they can come in and do anything that's on their own, like stretching. If they have a mobility routine they want to do, they can come in and use the Normatec boots, all the foam rolling stuff. Then we'll have treatment times where they work directly with the athletic trainers, and that can be anything from like a massage or cupping, anything that more specific that they need. They sign up for that. And then for like, let's say we had a match, the next day we'll run a proper recovery session. Depending, let's say we have a match, match day +1, -1, and then another match day. Then we'll split the group. So we'll have the group that played the most minutes will have a full recovery session, and then the other group will have a training session getting prepared for the next match. But yeah,
what does a full recovery session look like?
it can vary, to be honest. It can vary. We've done anything from pool sessions. If we have a pool available, we'll do a pool session. A mobility, then we'll end with a pool session. It can be on the field. So same thing on the field. We've done like different stations, 4 to 5 different stations of full body movement. And when I say mobility, it's not just like stretching movements. No, I am a full believer in also incorporate like some strength, like strength, upper body strength, or a lot of isometric movements, like that we can do either on the field if we have that possibility, or if we have a gym close to us in the by the field. We'll also sometimes it'll incorporate a gym session.
Okay.
But it's not like not like nothing crazy that you're trying to kill them. It's more like you're trying to get them to move and not be just
Okay.
sitting or laying down.
So if I understand you try like your recovery sessions are not necessarily just laying down, just not doing nothing, but you actually want them to be active. Yeah.
Yes, yes, we always want them to be active at least for a period of time. So we try. It could be up to 30 minutes that the session goes on. And then same thing, that group that is in a full mood recovery, they can get like more treatment after with the athletic trainers. But yes, most all of our recovery sessions mostly will be active, unless let's say we're coming from like 3 games already and we're going to play a fourth one, like for example in a World Cup, and we haven't had a day off, then we might give a 1 day off that is completely off. Because mentally they also need to get away from that.
Yeah, I see. And what would be the reasoning for you wanting them to move in a recovery session? Because I mean, a lot of people might think, no, recovery is just like not doing anything. But what would be the reason behind you wanting them to move?
Yeah, I always tell the players, we want to get your blood flow going. We want to raise your heart a little bit, get some of that soreness going out, because I feel that when you're not moving and you're staying more stiff, then you might generate more of a, I wouldn't say pain, but you're not helping that recovery process. And like you said, getting your blood flow to start You know, it's like the same thing with like the protein. Like you want to start that process as soon as you can. And obviously the first thing we want them to sleep enough. So that was a good point earlier. Like we want them to go to sleep, make sure you get your 8 hours of sleep at night. But then after that, okay, let's get you moving for at least 30 minutes and then you can go back, lay down, sleep, and we know they're still gonna get up for meals and all that, but we want something more specific that would get their blood flow going and start the recovery process physiologically.
I see. I see. So all this, like that improvement of of the blood flow is what's actually going to help them recover better. And you talked about in those moments that the players are more fatigued, that they come from 3, 4 games, something like a World Cup. In these cases, that your athletes are very fatigued, yeah, you might have put in a plan, but sometimes you cannot avoid the simple fact that they're gonna get fatigued. How do you react in those moments that the athletes are very fatigued, but they still have to perform? Say tomorrow they have a game, and they still have to perform. Like, what are the main things that you start doing in terms of nutrition, recovery techniques, or just anything?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Specifically in the longer tournaments, we'll start seeing that there's a lot of physical and mental fatigue as you move on to the tournament. It's a lot about having that conversation with the players. I think we're very like keeping our communication open. So we know where they're at, you know, because some players might be extremely fatigued, other players might be okay, like they're more used to it. So more understanding, okay, can we have that in that one-on-one conversation first, see how they're feeling? Then after, because as you mentioned, we already have a plan of like which days we're going to train, what we're going to do in trainings. So then I'll connect once we have that conversation with the player. We have the conversation with like the medical team of like, what do you guys see the players as well? Is there anyone specifically like that really needs an extra recovery? Yeah, I'll have a conversation with the coach if we have to make any modifications in training. Or let's say one day we had a lighter session, like not a recovery, but a light training session. Then, but we start seeing that they're very fatigued and we want to change it. Then it's just more of a communication with the coach. Can we adapt this session or change it up? And then, and we've done this where we make the call on the spot. Like, you know what, the team needs a day off. Let's just do an activity together, or let's go to the pool for 30 minutes, something like that. And then after that, we'll have to adapt the next training, because since we already had like a plan going now, okay, we decided to give them the day off, but now what can we do for the next training to help them again be prepared for the next match? So it's a lot of that, just figuring out, okay, where are we at? Because like you said, we go in there with a full on plan, with a full, like, this day we're going to do this, like everything is planned. But everyone starts responding differently to, you know, the fatigue from training, the fatigue from games. So that's when you really got to be able to adapt right away. And that's why having that original plan helps us better decisions.
So in the end, head coach is not deciding if you train or not. Like everyone is like making a decision for the guys, for the best for the guys.
For the best of the guys, exactly. Yes, and we're working very well together. As like even the coach understands, we know when is the right time to make that call. And you know, at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want the players to be able to perform at their highest levels.
And like you said, like there's not always, you don't have to have like intense training session every time. You can do like a light activity session, or maybe the coach has some video stuff that he wants to talk about.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So in that case, for example, there are times where the coach is like, okay, we don't need to train, but I have some tactical information I want to provide or I want to show. Then we find ways, like whether it's video, whether it's just a walkthrough session where they're just standing and like seeing position, we make the call to do that.
So I think especially in America, I think it's so much about like physicality, and you have to be like train hard every day. But sometimes like taking a training off can be a step forward instead of a step back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we've seen that. We've seen that where we make the call, and then the next training it goes well, or we're prepared for the match, and we kind of look at each other and say, "Hey, that was the right call to me." So
Yeah. So basically, because you want to be as proactive as possible and have everything prepared, but then also having that ability of being reactive when you need to be, right, and not being afraid of just giving them a day off if you actually feel like, of course, you have to hear the players, and if based on what you see on them, you think is the right decision to make.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, Stephanie, now that we talk about a lot of like what sports science is, a lot of the young athletes, especially like soccer players or just anybody, has that dream of being in the national team, either a youth level or professional level. But everybody wants to represent their country, right? So I wanted to ask you, now that you're in that world, what are the main things that are looked at in an athlete in order to call them for the national team?
Oh, that's something everyone everyone asks. They're always, um, there's different things that I honestly have talked a lot to even like talent ID to understand what separates players from like what puts them in this slot, like the highest level player in the country. And a lot of the things, a lot of obviously we want they want to see their technical ability. So
Yeah.
how good they are with the ball. Then they want to see their physical.
Hmm.
Um, and when I talk physical, is their like their characteristics. Like are they like athletic? How how also like how do they run well? How fast do they run? Like those are important things, but those are also things that can be taught. So you'll understand once I start putting everything together. There's not just one thing that makes everyone like the best player. There's like little like different buckets that they're looking to be filled. So yeah, technical abilities, um, physical how the physical aspects are like or where they're at physically.
Yeah.
Um, also their how well they read the game. That's
Okay.
that's a big one as well. That sometimes like people don't think about it sometimes with the younger, but like
Yeah.
I would say their soccer or their football IQ, like how well they can read the game and they
Mhm.
can make decisions based on that.
Yeah.
The decisions that they make based on being on the field. So all of this is whatever, but a lot of the things that you picture in an athlete. Um, with the younger ages too, like or as we start getting to know players, so one of the big things that are also looked at is their behavior. So
Mhm.
how a player behaves on and off the field.
Yeah.
That's also very important because it's also very important how the player will be like inside the locker room, right? Like in
Right.
there's so many emotions going within like
Yeah.
a match or a training, and it's like how do they react? How do they respond? So their behavior is also very very important.
Like
Um,
environment, like so many guys, like they're the best in their team, and then they come together and
Yeah.
team like so with some egos walking around. I can imagine. Say like
oh
this.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So it's that's yeah, and sometimes like they're not used to that, right? Like or they're used to being the best in their team. So now it's like, okay, how do I come to this environment? So they have to learn, and at the younger ages, we kind of have to remind them of like this is where you're at. There's
Yeah.
other people here with you, like, and try to educate them and help them. So like later on in their careers, they have better experiences. I would say.
No, definitely. And I mean, you're putting 20 people from completely different teams, completely different backgrounds in the same place. I mean, if you've been playing with the same people for 10 years, you of course you're gonna get along with it. Even if you are behave well or don't behave well, you're gonna end up getting along well with them. But then when you're put into a new environment with people different than you, that as Matt said, are used to being the best as well, like that behavior part becomes really important because that shows how well you're gonna do in that team and how much you're gonna benefit, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I think also like one a reminder, it's like a lot of the games or some like final matches, and we've seen it
Yeah.
across all levels. Like the teams can be the best tactically, but not always the best tactical team wins. It's like who has the better mindset and who has, you know, the better like behavior on the field, but also off the field to stay together as a team. Or like you said, if like in a game you go down, you're losing. Okay, what's the player's mindset on that? How are they going to react to that? How are they going to behave now? Not just themselves, but in their team. How are they going to get the team to help to get out? So there are they literally I was impressed too when I learned about of this a lot of these buckets that
Yeah.
um some like talent ID will look at, or some scouts, or like and you started, and once you started being in this environment, you understand, oh yeah, like not the best technical player, like it's not always the best technical player that's gonna
Mm, I
have
see.
the better career. And I used to, even me when I was younger, and I used to have a lot of friends that were very good technically, and I was like why didn't they make it, or why, and there's a lot more to it. And it's also like some of these things you can learn in the time. A lot of them you can learn with your experience, but and I don't think we're ever like, or they're ever looking for the perfect player that fills in all the buckets. If they, I mean, yeah, there's maybe one in the world that does that, but like, let's say they have 4 out of 5 buckets. Okay, like we see that they have a good, that they're a good prospect. That they can be taught some of the other things, and so yeah, it's more about, okay, where are they at, and like if they come in for camps, are they progressing to that, and are they still getting better as an athlete, as a player, and so do we see a future for them, basically?
Yeah, like you also see the rate of growth that they're having, like how much progress. Because yeah, somebody might have been good 2 years ago, but if they're still in the same place after 2 years, then that's not a very good sign, right? And Stephanie, you guys have the players for around 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or however much time you guys have, but you don't have them all year long, right?
Mhm.
They're with their academies, with their clubs, some of them that are pro. When they leave that camp with you guys, what are the main things, the main advices that you give to them to make sure that they stay ready during the season and that they come back and they come back in a good shape?
We, like I said, we always try to help them or tell them, like, as they come into a camp, it's always like reminders of like where you're at. You're in a national team camp. You're going to have 10 days of training. You're going to have 3 games competition, for example.
Mm,
And you tell them everything we have here, high performance room set up for you. We
yeah,
have meals that are uh, prepared, or that are thought based on your prioritization level. You have some of the supplements. You have some of the snack ideas, and you have all your meetings with your coaches. Everything you learn, you might, like you said, you might or might not see it in your club. And we always tell them from the first day, we tell them, try to get one thing that it's new to you during this camp that you can learn. Like, there's so much information, we don't expect you to take 100% of it. If you do, that's great. But if there's one thing that you can take, and we always tell them, not just for yourself, but you are one of the best players in your club by being in this camp. Like, that's what I mean. So can you take it back and help your club
help
and
others.
help your team also be better? Because so you're in camp, you learn something, you're helping yourself. So you're improving as an individual, as a player. Now I take it to my club, and I'm helping my team, my
You did.
own team. Yeah. Now you're going to start acting as a leader. You're going to bring that leadership in. Now your team is going to help the club. And now the club is going to help the sport.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm like, don't think about just the bigger pictures. Like, what can you take from like this camp new? So at the end of the camp, we remind them that, okay, now you had a week or 2 weeks long. You got this experience of being here with different teammates, like you said, from all over the world that are here, and you learn. And there was so much information. And we always, when we always test them, we're like, okay, what's something that you learned this week? You know, whether it's something tactical or it's something about your teammate or it's something about the staff or it's something about the new country that you were in, something like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's always those reminders of like, okay, take note, take it back to your clubs. Um, and now, if you saw that you were lacking in something, let's say you need to work on your shooting skills, then go back and ask your club for help or reach out to us, and then we'll try to help the best way we can.
I
But
see.
yeah, so it's always those like just little reminders because, like you said, we have very limited time with them, and we do try to like at least meet with them between camps. The coach will call them, have some conversations with the players just to keep that relationship, and also to make sure like we're checking in.
Yeah, and I love that exercise of teaching other people because in that exercise they end up learning more. Because when you teach better, you learn it more. So I really like it. It's always like as you said, it's so limited the time that the best you can do is just try to educate them and expose them to these tools, just so they can go ahead like realize
Mhm.
how beneficial they are, and then go ahead and keep implementing them. Because as you said, you're not gonna be there all year long beside them to tell them, oh, do this, do that. But the best thing you can do is just at least put those ideas in their mind, and so they get knowledge that it's actually something that's helping their performance. That's great. And I really like this podcast. And as we talked last time, I really also enjoyed that conversation because I mean, at the end of the day, and especially for us that are soccer players, well, our dreams as kids is being in the national team, in the youth national team, so having the chance to talk to you and get to know a little bit about how you guys operate, what you guys look for, is really interesting, and it's really valuable for us, for you, that you're sharing these tools to us. So I really appreciate you taking the time, Stephanie.
I think also it's really nice to see the approach you guys are having, like not to make it too strict, like you said with the nutrition. Like you give them an idea, like what they should eat, but you don't like give them the finished plate already. Or like with the recovery, like you say, okay, you have all the tools you want to have, but in the end you have to go there by yourself. And also the thing with the nutrition advice, I think it's really nice to see it like this, and so there's not too much pressure on the kids.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that always helps, right? Taking out the a little bit of the pressure. And obviously, yes, sometimes you have to be hard, but giving them that autonomy too of like they know how to do it themselves. So when they go back home, they can continue doing, and they don't need that constant reminder or pressure from someone else.
Can also, I can imagine like also it's like the 15, 16-year-old age, like puberty hits, and it's like they don't want to hear everything probably. So
Yeah,
It's a tough age right there. Evan, if
it
you're
is.
cool, we want to end it up with some rapid fire questions. Is that okay with you?
Okay. Yeah,
Perfect. What is the single most important thing an athlete should do the night before a game?
sleep.
Nothing more, right?
I would say sleep. A lot of them don't sleep even from the pressure.
what do you think for guys, like what is the perfect amount of sleep?
8 hours.
8 hours?
Yeah, yeah, 8 hours would be the goal. I mean, 7, you're still good, but even at younger ages would say 8 hours.
And also not too long. Because like when I sleep too long, I feel like I haven't slept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're stuck to
Okay.
the pillow.
Yeah. So recovery or training, which one moves the needle more?
Recovery training. What was
No,
that?
no, no.
Sorry?
Recovery or training, which one moves the needle more?
Oh my god. That one, I don't.
I mean,
That's hard.
goes hand in hand, kind of. But
Yeah, it does. I'm like, that one. I stay in the middle, like
okay.
both, a balance of both.
It's not a either or, is both things, right?
You need a balance of both. Yeah, I think too much training, because I feel like there is too much training sometimes.
Yeah,
Um, you know, but also recovering all the time. It's
Yeah.
like, you're doing, yeah, I think it goes hand in hand.
definitely. And why shouldn't ask? And this is a question that I also want for myself. Why should an athlete be doing in the halftime to make sure that you go well to the second half?
Ooh. Um, Hydrating, refueling, but not like, when I say refuel, it's not like you have to eat, to feel like crazy heavy, but um, like we always have snacks, for example, available just to do a little refill. There's always like also electrolytes, anything like that is very helpful during halftime to replenish those electrolytes. Like I said, a lot of players do lose a lot of liquid or
Mm,
during the games, but as they move on to their career, it's kind of like what works better for them.
okay.
Like I've seen players that they have to eat a banana halftime, or I've seen players that um, they have to, I don't know, drink take a electrolyte gel every halftime, or pickle juice. But I would say definitely try to push that hydration while you can. If you can, a little like refill or electrolyte gel, that's always going to help. Um, yeah, I would say those, because everything else is more like what you do with the team, kind of
Definitely.
um, like warming up again, or anything like that movement, but you would do it as a team.
Yeah,
So
it's more like little things, because I mean the work has already been done, so it's just like these little details that you try to optimize.
Yeah, just to try to, make sure that, or to try to help yourself to continue playing with the same level of energy.
Definitely.
okay. So what do you think about ice baths? Do you think it's overhyped or it's a must-have for recovery?
I can't say that answer because we do as well.
So it's a must-have.
It's a must. I like ice baths. I think everyday ice baths are not necessary, and I would say they don't have that much of a benefit. I think including them in the proper timing would,
Mm,
like, or in, let's say you do it minus once, or after your like post match. I think it's important. I always tell people there's so many tools, and I don't think there's one tool that will recover you 100%. So,
mhm,
but if you get all these tools and you're able to do them, you
mhm.
should. I mean, why not?
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
not? Either if it's a 1 or 2% better, why not? If it's going to get you closer to the 100%. Obviously, if it's something that is not benefiting you and it's hurting you, then okay, that's a different conversation. But ice baths, I'll always make my players go on ice baths if they played 60 plus minutes. You
It's
can
like
ask them. They hate me for it, but they love me the next day.
And you right after the game.
Right after the game. Yes.
okay, okay,
And I keep it short. Right after the game, we'll do like 6 minutes.
okay.
Um, mhm.
What about cheat meals? Do you think that's something that every player must have, or what do you think about them?
uh yes, I would. I think they should be. I think we have mentally, they it's better for them to get away from that like cheat meal, because then you feel more restricted during your other meals.
Mm,
Like, as in, and it's more like, oh my god, like I can't eat like real or good food this whole week till my cheat meal. And it's more like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm gonna have my protein, my carbs. Like, it's a nice meal, but okay, on Friday I get to have, I don't know, Chick-fil-A. It's one of the favorites. That's like Chick-fil-A, and it's just, and I'm still getting my protein. But yeah, I don't. I think as an athlete, um, it's okay. It's okay to have those meals once in a while. It's
okay,
obviously healthy every day, But yeah,
yeah,
I always tell he like players too. Like you're not going to eat that every day, and the way you want to eat is also to be healthier for the rest of your life. So just kind of think about it that as well.
I can also tell out of my own experience, I had like cheat meals like every Sunday. And then I was like, because like the whole week I was like thinking, oh God, on Sunday I'm going to eat this, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to eat this. So sometimes I took too much. So I told myself that doesn't make sense anymore. So I looked up some videos like what is better to do it. And so like instead of saying I can't eat this, like you said, like you feel too restricted. So I said like, okay, there's my grandma, she made a dessert or something. And then I like, okay, I'm gonna eat it. But then of course, like maybe then at dinner I eat a little bit less, something like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a balance, but our minds are so powerful that sometimes we like restrict these things that, and it's more like finding the appropriate time or finding the right time. Like, in camps, I'll have the players like, okay, today or after match or on our day off, we're gonna go get ice cream, for example. And I'm like, completely fine. Like like
Yeah.
just finding those better times, and also what you're not gonna go do it, for example, right before a game. Maybe that's not the most nutritional food or calories to intake to get you prepared, but it's a little treat. Like you said, it's a treat that you're going to get during the week.
Exactly. And if you end up balancing, if you're getting the right protein, if you get the right amount of calories, then you can actually play with it a lot and you can end up eating a lot of things that you wouldn't have imagined that you can eat. It's funny because I would see this guy every Sunday, like just come with like 3 ice creams.
And you can check out our Awarenezzz videos.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always nice to have those comfort foods.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what is one common training misconception that actually can harm your performance? If you have one on top of your mind.
Oh, that can harm your performance.
Or actually like
I don't know. Yeah.
like that are not as good as people think.
Maybe like long stretches before training, something like this.
Yeah, that
Long static stretches.
Okay.
Or long like dynamic stretching. It's good for you. It'll help, but long static stretching, it's actually in the research somewhere. That could harm your performance. So it's always better to just go into those dynamics.
Okay. And Stephanie, just give us one final advice for young athletes.
I have so many. No, I would say obviously as a young athlete, when you're trying to get into those professional clubs or that professional level, sometimes you're asked naturally to grow very fast. And when I say grow, is to mature, to start living an adult life very fast. And sometimes we forget why we started playing. So I think it's learning how to balance both sides is always important. So remember, as a professional athlete or as an elite level athlete, you have responsibilities, you have a lifestyle that's going to change, but then never forget to have fun and enjoy the beauty of the game. Because at the end of the day, you still want to enjoy what you're doing, and just trying to learn how to balance both sides. I think it's important. So I always try to tell players, like, just remember why you do it and why you started doing it, and then put your effort into obviously getting better. But it's little by little. I think the best way to say it as well, I love telling my players is just 1% better every day at whatever you do. 1% better in your nutrition, 1% better in your training, 1% better in your mental health. Anything that you do, don't try to be perfect right away, because no one's perfect. No one's going to be 100% all the time. But if you improve in one thing, 1% better every day, then you're going there. You're going the right direction.
love it. I love it. I think that's a great way to end it, Stephanie. And as I said before, I really appreciate you for taking the time of being here. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Now, just looking forward to having another one, and then we can talk a little bit more about these things again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for inviting me, for having me here. And I'm looking forward to the next one whenever you want to invite me back.
Yes, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was nice. It was interesting to see how it works on the high level. Really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
No,
Stephanie.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.